G'day there guys, it's Connie here again from Marquee Industries, and we're back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Okay folks, we're starting on relationship advice. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My wife is forcing our son to quit gymnastics because she thinks it'll ruin his purity." This is the latest in a string of disagreements that we've recently begun to have regarding our son as he enters his teen years. I met my wife in youth group before eventually getting married years later, but she's also been the more stricter one between us. And while I believe in being strict to a point, I believe there are some times where she's been unreasonably strict, times where I've had to step in and put my foot down. I remember when our son asked to skip youth group on a Friday to go to a friend's birthday party, but she said no because, quote, God is supposed to come first. And while I get that, I told her she was being unreasonable, along with how missing an occasional Friday wouldn't hurt. A similar conversation took place on one of his birthdays, where he wanted to sleep in, but she wanted him to come. I again chose to tell her that it wasn't a big deal, and although he was allowed to stay home in the end, she was upset in the car and most of the time at church. In addition to this, she doesn't want him to have friends who aren't Christians either, and that was one of the bigger arguments we had. When I asked her why she felt like that, she pointed to many mistakes that she made after drifting from God after graduating high school and thinking that she didn't need him, and that she was trying to help him avoid doing the same thing and stuff like that. I told her that while I understood where she was coming from, forcing him to do or go to something he doesn't want to will not help him long term and will only make him resentful later on. But she's convinced that he'll turn to drinking and other stuff like she did, and she often says those memories often stick with her to the point where she doesn't want him ever having to live with her mistakes. The reason I'm writing this is because of our latest argument. She wants him to quit gymnastics because she thinks that being around a bunch of girls in tights is unhealthy, along with how God wants us to shield our eyes from things that could distract us from him. She also says the sport provides a lot of easy opportunities for him to, quote, become lustful in an environment that seems completely normal. And I already knew that trying to talk her out of this one would be almost pointless, but I tried nonetheless. I told her that while she can think whatever she wants, it doesn't mean that others will think the same way. I also told her that there's nothing immoral about doing gymnastics, and especially since he's so passionate about it, but she said she didn't want him around an environment that often harbored girls of different ages, and that the last thing she wanted was for him to start looking at a younger girl. This is where I snapped and told her that while I supported her desire to talk to him about purity, that she is wrong for putting her religious bias and everything and assuming the worst for our son. I also told her that she's wrong for assuming our son would think like that, along with how she's wrong for viewing gymnastics in that light. She then told me that she'll no longer drive him or allow him to go at the end of his current class, and I told her that she's wrong and constantly over the top about everything, along with how she's presenting a demented example of Christianity to him. I then went to bed, since I had work in the morning, and the conversation took place right when I was heading to bed, but she said she wanted to talk to me first. When I went to work today, my son called me and told me what she said, that she had told him that this would be his last semester in gymnastics, along with saying that it's her duty to protect him while he lives under our roof. When I came home today, I wanted to talk to her over dinner, and I told him that he could take his food upstairs, but she told him that we were going to eat at the table, and when we were done, she said that her decision was final, since she is the one who has to drive him in the first place, and when I tried to talk to her, she didn't want to hear it. Eventually, I told my son that I would talk to her and not to worry about anything, and he looked a bit better after I said that, probably because he knew I usually sided with him, but I'm slightly torn on this one. She's the one who drives him, and she's the only one who can while I'm at work. I'm considering asking someone else to carpool him, but I'm disgusted by the fact that I even have to do that. But my main issue is how she doesn't want to renew him at the end of semester, so I'm considering using my own money to pay for it myself, but since our finances are combined, I know she'll throw a fit about it, and there's still the issue of how he's getting there. I'm open to any advice that I can get to make this work. I believe that she's wrong and that he shouldn't have to quit just because of her assumptions, but I also know that the real issue lies within our marriage. I've suggested cancelling to her, but she refuses to go, so I went by myself for a while, and it did do some good. I want to make things work, and I understand that she's been through a lot, thus why she's so adamant about him staying close to God. But I disagree with the way she's going about it, and I'm questioning if I'll ever be able to fully get through to her. Wow, yeah, like Opie mentioned, this is a fast-track way to make your kid resent you. Let's go to the comments. I can't really answer from a religious point of view. I just don't move in circles, so fanatically religious to the point they impose rules that aren't part of the religion in the first place. But I will say, protect your son from his mother. No good can come from this. How can she possibly say her own son would look at younger girls? Does she really think she's raised someone like that? Also, he's only 12 and done nothing wrong. Opie replies, she gets paranoid over the smallest of things, but I refuse to let her take away something he loves, and in this case, gymnastics. I personally think she's trying to use religion as the reason, but for her to suggest something as derogatory as that, I've frickin' had it with her trying to call foul at every moment, and it annoys me to think about when I'm also trying to focus at work. She's ruining your son's life one rule at a time. The more restricted he is now, the more he's going to distance himself from religion and the people who force it on him when he's old enough to have a choice. Opie says that's what I try to tell her, that he'll only grow to resent us and do the things we'll tell him not to do. The more she bashes him over the head with nonsensical things, such as her views on gymnastics. Your wife does not sound mentally well. From an outside point of view, she comes across as having some mental health disorder and is refusing to get it treated. This might be one of those line in the sand moments. If you don't put a stop to this nonsense and make it a deal breaker that she gets therapy from a non-Christian focused counsellor, she will continue to decline and put your son's mental health at risk. Also, kids with parents like this tend to give up church altogether as soon as they can, by the way. Opie replies, I'm going to try to talk to her again and advise counselling from an outside source, as well as someone in our church perhaps, but more so the outside professional one. If she refuses and continues in her ways, I'm considering separation because it's stressful when I'm at work, among other similar things and rules that I have to overrule over the years, along with the fear of him developing an unnecessary complex that'll hurt him long term. Your wife is making your son quit gym because girls in tights might tempt him. I'm so glad your son has you and that you can see how crazy that is. I find it upsetting that your wife is sexualizing young girls and then passing that onto a child and making it his issue. As a mother to 3 boys, all over 12, who were brought up to respect females, this is not an issue. Males, like females, will develop a sexual interest as they grow, which is part of our natural development. It could cause your child lasting damage if he is taught girls are so evil, he must stop doing gym because they will lead him away from God. That is what she is teaching him. Your wife is in danger of having a son who resents his mother so much by the time he's 18, he goes no contact. Or one that is so softy whipped he can't make a single decision without strong female direction. He is about to be a teenager and must start to be given the space to make small decisions in his life in order to prepare him for adulthood. Your wife sounds like a weapon, blaming all her narcissistic and controlling behaviors on God. She needs help, and fair play to you for fighting for your relationship, but it seems you're the only one trying to compromise. 100% your son should continue gym. If you have to choose between your wife and son, please choose your son. Yeah, I tend to agree. Let's go to an update. It's been a couple of days since my original post, so I'll get right into it. The short version of last time was that my wife wanted my son to quit gymnastics because she thinks that being around other girls in gymnastics apparel would cause his mind to lust and be ungodly, and this is in the aftermath of her talking to him about purity and whatnot. Over the years, I've been too passive about her ways. When she guilted him into wanting to skip a single youth group meeting to go to a birthday party, all under the impression that God is supposed to come first in everything. She also doesn't want him having friends who aren't Christian because she thinks that they will push him further away from God, and I consider this a contradiction to the Great Commission that is in the New Testament. Not that I'm someone who advocates trying to bring religion into every conversation and come off as that weird person, but Jesus spent the majority of his time around people who weren't perfect saints, the opposite of what she's mandated. When she tried to force him to skip the party to put him first, I overruled it, taking the easy way out. When he wanted to hang out with friends who weren't necessarily Christians and she threw a fit, I wanted to tell her that that's a form of being prejudiced by judging someone based off an imaginary image in our heads that has nothing to do with their actual character, and before even meeting them. But I took the easy way out again and just told him he was fine to keep them, when I believe that shouldn't have been an issue in the first place. I did the same thing again in regards to the purity talks that she wanted to have with him too, and I agreed and let her have them, although I was rather quiet during the talk that we had, and I now regret and realize just how much of a mistake that was for these reasons. Being completely honest, this whole situation that has been brewing for years has made me grow tired of her religious nonsense and somewhat religion as a whole, since it can sometimes become a scapegoat for petty beliefs that people want to promote under the guise of something like that, and I think it's very manipulative. For years, I did nothing wrong because the thought of separation and the opinions that would follow from our church and parents and friends would be overwhelming, considering how some really consider it taboo to get divorced, even if it's none of their business. But to be honest, I don't really care anymore. I've been growing more numb to religion over the past few years because of her, and after hearing her suggest that our son would look at girls in the very same environment that he's grown up around for years in a lustful way, just doesn't sit well with me, and that's putting it nicely. She's sexualizing a sport and suggested that our son could become a predator if he stayed, and that has resonated more than anything else she's ever done, along with making me wonder if she doesn't have that kind of mindset herself already. So, what did I do? Before doing anything, I decided to talk to her one-on-one about the matter. I asked if she had anything against gymnastics personally, and I told her that trying to make him quit would only make him hate us. She replied something along the lines of how the world has a habit of making everything that isn't sexual, and that the gymnastics environment promotes girls in clothing that can be easily looked at wrongfully, then going on to say stuff about how God wants us to have clean eyes and stuff like that. When I suggested that perhaps she was projecting her personal problems on her, which I debated if it'd be too harsh to say but chose to anyway, she just said no and didn't want to talk about it. I eventually asked if she'd be willing to go to counselling with me, a professional counsellor who would find within the area. She said no, and then I offered talking to someone inside the church second, but she became defensive and said that I was trying to embarrass her in front of her friends, to which I told her wasn't true, but that she wasn't cooperating when a marriage is supposed to be about working things out. She then proceeded to get upset and say that I'm wrong for allowing our son to stay in an environment where, quote, he'll grow older as younger girls keep coming in, and that it says a lot about what I'm comfortable about looking at by allowing him to do so. And I was done after that, since I felt she was accusing me of being unfaithful simply because I don't think he should quit gymnastics. Sure, I could talk to other parents and try to arrange a carpool, and I could drive him myself if I could get off early enough from work on some days too, but I can't control what she does at the home when I'm not there, since she already talked to him behind my back on numerous occasions while I'm at work, trying to explain why she wants him to quit and whatnot, and if she doesn't want to talk or cooperate with me, then what more can I do? I talked to my son, told him that we'd be going up to my parents for the weekend, and potentially a bit longer, and I was direct in telling him why. I told him again that I'm on his side, and that she is sexualizing a sport and minors in a way that is very inappropriate, and that the last thing we need is to deal with that as he goes into his teen years. I also apologized for enabling her for so many years while being afraid of the idea of separation, and while I heavily debated whether or not I should be this direct about explaining everything at his age, I did because I didn't want him to feel that I kept things from him as he grew older and throughout this situation, and I also told him how it was making me stressed at work and unable to focus on my job, which allowed him to open up and tell me that he feels guilty about wanting to go, which I told him was wrong and that he has nothing to feel guilty about. But the fact that she made him even have these doubts is something that didn't need to exist in the first place, and my parents are helping me look into a lawyer and other ways to comfort him. A lot of this is on me for allowing it to go on for too long, but I just want to know how to help him with the guilt that he voiced in the aftermath of her words. Besides telling him that I'm on his side and that she's wrong, she's already implanted the doubt whenever he's in the gym now, and I just want to help him navigate it to the best that I can and undo the damage that her bullcrap has caused. As for my wife, she didn't know that we left until after we got there, but I told her exactly why we had left, and she was slightly apologetic on the phone. I asked her again if she'd be willing to go to counselling, but she accused me of trying to manipulate her into going, so I told her to call back if she had a change of heart, but my main priority remains undoing the damage she's done to him while recovering mentally myself and potentially working through a separation unless she shows that she's willing to change, which I have my doubts about, considering we left and she still wouldn't consider counselling. Just being up here, though, is more peaceful and needed from the stress of work and being in that home. Okay folks, now for a final update. It's been almost a month, so I wanted to come back to this. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really tired at this point, and I wrote a lot the last 2 times, but I don't think I will this time because I'm really losing my energy about it. Basically, when we were still staying at my parents', I told her why we left and that I'd return if she had a change of heart when we first talked, but she refused to budge on her stance, that it's inappropriate for him at this age to be in the same gym at little kids, and preferably girls from a purity standpoint, since she believes that the world has a habit of turning everything that isn't sexual into something sexual, and she believes that the sport just serves as eye candy to lustful people who can watch girls run around in leotards, as she often points out, and she's told him this bullcrap while I'm at work, and it drove me crazy. I couldn't focus when, in the back of my mind, she's at home telling him crap that I'll have to undo later, and I've stated in my update that a lot of her behaviour is on me for being lax over the years, but I'm trying to do better. But it's been really stressful, and it still is almost a month later. When we were at my parents', we stayed there for a little while, but she began to tell her parents and mutual friends false things about me, to the point where her parents and some of them began to call me or message me on her behalf and call me a bad husband, along with other things, and apparently she told them that I kidnapped our son, along with other things about how I'm this horrible person because of her lies, not to mention something about me putting my hands on her once too, which I swear never happened once in her life, or even when we were talking about going to counselling. My parents told me that she was trying to guilt me into returning under her terms, and that I should continue to stay with them because she has truly gone off the rails, and we've been here ever since. But I've taken a leave from my work because my mind hasn't been in a good place for over a month, and that's from everything that happened at our house, and the new lies and the stress my son feels, and finding a lawyer and researching other legal things with my parents. And it's taken a lot of time out of my parents' lives too, but they've been amazing, and I want to thank them when it's all over, and even before then. From talking to the police and organising documentation for them and my lawyer, I'm tired right now, and my parents are too, but we're still trying to figure it out, and know that this will probably be a long process, and I don't care how much it costs to debunk her lies and get us both into therapy. My son, however, does not want to go, and I told him, alongside my parents, that he could go with me or alone, only if he wanted to, and that we weren't forcing him. But he said he didn't want to at the time, so we've left it for a bit instead of forcing the issue, and I've begun talking to one in my spare time online as well, and my parents are helping me pay for it a little. However, my son doesn't want to do gymnastics anymore, and he's still hard on himself for everything that's transpired, despite the many times me and my parents have tried to assure him that nothing is his fault. All of it is mine for letting her go down this slippery slope for so long, but he's had no desire to do it, and has voiced guilt about being around girls and making them uncomfortable without even knowing he was. But I told him that was his mum putting that in his head, and that isn't true. But I regret going along with her desire to teach purity and keeping us in a church that ostracizes people for having an abortion, like one girl I mentioned in my second update, the same church that she has spread her lies to about me, and I have no intention of ever returning there again. In regards to his schooling, that's another mess at the moment. He hasn't been in class because she went to them too, and my lawyer thinks it's best to hold off on that for a moment for his well-being with others and the fact that she could show up there herself, but he wants him to go back sooner rather than later, and I do too, and I'm trying to see if there's a way that he can do most of his work online or something, but I'm still working on that at the moment. But most importantly, I'm trying to help encourage him to speak to someone for how he feels that's far beyond how I'm able to help him from a professional standpoint, and standing with him until he decides to do anything else. From a mental standpoint, he feels guilty, like I said, not just for what happened with Mum, but about the things she said to him about him lusting after girls without him knowing it at gymnastics, stuff that I don't want him developing a complex about over her nonsense. But my other main priority is getting a divorce after this last straw. I can't take it anymore, and I don't know how much longer this will continue. Probably a while, but he's tired of gymnastics, and I'm not in a good state right now, and my parents think it's best to probably have him to go see someone sooner rather than later, which is why I'm probably going to make him go at some point, although I don't know the best way to do that without coming off as forceful in a way that he'll resent. And if anyone has any advice on how to make him go in a way that doesn't make him upset or resentful or unwilling to potentially help us with some of the legal stuff she might have said to him, although I know that's not my first priority, I'd really appreciate that, as it hasn't been easy on him, and I just want it to be over. But I'm aware that this is the consequence of letting her get away with small things over the years that boiled into this. But if we can come out all right, then maybe we can both somehow be stronger at the end of it. Wow, what a nightmare. Let's read some final comments. This poor kid has had his passion for his sport ruined, and he'll never be able to look at a girl of any age without doubting himself just as he's hitting puberty. It's absolutely awful. I feel so bad for him, and he probably blames himself for the divorce too. What an awful and selfish mother to do that to her kid, and the fact that she can even imagine something so vile about her preteen son somehow lusting after even younger children makes me really suspicious of what the heck is going on in her head. I'm only halfway through, but this woman is demented. She's literally accusing her 12-year-old of being a pedophile. Nowhere else has younger people join all the time? Youth group. There's crazy, and then there's whatever the F this woman is on. Yeah, how do you describe someone like this? She has completely lost it. What do you guys think about that story? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, we're going to leave that one there and move on to another one. Okay, we're moving over to Am I the A-hole? This one was written by user Top Travel, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not going to the wedding of my dad and his affair partner? When I was 17, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. 2 years later, she passed away. During these 2 years, my dad was not around much. He was always working and going on business trips. My aunt and grandma took care of mum. About 5 months after my mother's passing, my dad introduced me to his new girlfriend. I was ticked. I yelled at him how quickly he moved on from mum when they decided to tell me they'd been in a relationship for 3 years. My dad had been cheating on my mum while she was dying. His business trips were to meet his affair partner. I was so angry I packed my stuff and left his house. I haven't spoken to him since that day. Currently, I'm 25. The only family I speak to is an aunt who helped me when I left my dad's house. A few days ago, my aunt called me, asked me how I was, and then asked me if I'd heard from Dad. I said, why would I hear from him again? My aunt said Dad is getting married to his affair partner, and by going to his wedding, it would help us mend our relationship. I said, why would I do that? He is dead to me. There was a silence on the phone for a bit before my dad replied, asking if that was what I felt about him. I immediately cut the call when I heard his voice. I realized he was with my aunt when she made the call to me. I texted my aunt telling her I asked her not to tell my dad anything about me, and she agreed back then. She texted me back saying I was an a-hole for saying what I said, and my dad is crushed hearing that, and that I should move on by now. I did not want to argue with someone who helped me, so I blocked her. Over the next 2 days, I got sent a wedding invitation to my mailbox. The only person in the family who knew my address was my aunt, and she gave my number to various members of the family. I'm being bombarded with calls and texts from dad, uncles, cousins, aunts, saying I should give him a chance and come to the wedding, some calling me names for saying what I said. I got a text from the affair partner saying my dad is thinking of postponing the wedding, and I should just talk to him. For context, the affair partner was a friend of my mum's and knew she had cancer. I said it's not my fault if he postpones the wedding. I don't want to have a relationship with Dad or her. They're trying to force it. It got quiet after that, but being told by so many people from my dad's side I'm an a-hole did leave me conflicted, but I'm sticking to my guns. So, am I the a-hole? No, definitely not the a-hole for me. What the dad did there is absolutely deplorable. I don't blame OP for cutting him off. Let's go to the comments. Your aunt violated your trust and the rest of your family needs to be cut off too. Opie says, yeah, I've blocked 39 numbers, but what my aunt did really made me sad. I genuinely thought she cared for me. It feels like there's a catch here for them to want to reach out now and not years ago. Opie says, actually, I thought about this too, and I think you may be right, because I got some texts like, it's a son's duty to take care of his father, and your future kids would want their grandfather in their life. On safety. Thank you, I'm in the process of changing my number and updating contacts. As for where I live, it's a pretty secure apartment. You can only come in after me or someone buzzes you in. Then you have to write down your name with security, and the elevator works with a key fob only. I'm hoping that I don't have to move, but keeping my options open if it escalates. One comment says, "Not the a-hole. Your dad cheated on your mum while she was dying, and now the whole family is upset. You've calmly expressed how you feel about it by A. cutting your dad out, and B. not attending the wedding. Your aunt also violated your trust by giving your contact information out without your consent. I'd say cut the whole family out at this point." Opie updates a bit less than 1 month later. Hello. First, I want to thank all who commented on the first post and all who messaged me. It really helped me stick with my decision to not go to the wedding. I wanted to update earlier, but it's been pretty hectic with work. So, after the many texts and calls from multiple family members, I sent a text to all the numbers detailing what Dad did and why I chose to be no contact with him. I then blocked all the numbers. I've changed my number but kept the old number in a separate phone to collect evidence if they start to harass me from random numbers, but luckily nothing happened, and I thought that was that. A week or so after that, my aunt's fiancé came to my apartment. He knows what time I get off work and was waiting for me in the parking lot. I was apprehensive, but he assured me he only wanted to talk, and according to him, the text I sent has caused a crapstorm in that family. He told me that some of the cousins who did not know what happened in the past started to question Dad and affair partner, and they started to get defensive and deny it. But someone revealed that it was true. This has caused a massive argument within the family, with some cousins pulling out of the wedding. Dad wanted to postpone the wedding so he could talk to me, but the affair partner threatened to leave him if he did that. The news of what Dad and affair partner did also reached some of their friends who were at one point friends of my mum as well. Some of them have also pulled out of the wedding, and this caused the affair partner to have a breakdown and started banning anyone who brings it up, family members included, from the wedding. According to Aunt's fiancé, she's blaming this all on me, says I did this intentionally. I laughed at that. The wedding is still somehow happening. I asked him about my aunt and how all of this started, and he said all he knows is that there was a conversation of how bad the family would look if I wasn't at the wedding, and that my aunt offered to call me. He said that he disagreed, but she did it anyway. He said that he's only here because he felt I needed to know what happened. I thanked him, but said I'll be going completely no contact with her, and by extension, him as well. He agreed, wished me well, and left. I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely okay. I miss my aunt, I miss my mum, but I know what I did was the right thing. I'm currently staying with my girlfriend, and she's been cheering me up by coming up with absurd ways to ruin the wedding. As a lot of you said, I should try therapy, and I'm going to take that advice. Some of the comments have made me realize that I've bottled up a lot of grief and anger. I'm super nervous about it, but I also feel it'll do me good. So once again, thank you for all your comments and advice. Ciao. Opie comments on the girlfriend's ideas. The very first idea she came up with was, let's go to the landfill and catch some rats, and then let's release them at the wedding. It got progressively worse from that. Obviously, this is just for fun, and I have no intention of going anywhere near that wedding, but reading some of the ideas here is giving me a good laugh. Opie updates 1 year later. Hello. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I logged in today and saw a lot of messages asking me what happened and how I'm doing. I wasn't sure if I should write this or if anyone would even see it because I don't know if I'm doing it right, but here it goes. For everyone asking what happened at the wedding, I don't know much. All I know is that they got married. No one from that family contacted me since then, and I didn't go around asking either. I'm at peace with it. As for me, things are different now. First, I want to thank everyone who reached out and asked how I've been holding up. Your kindness means more than I can put into words. I'm getting better, slowly, though the journey hasn't been easy. A lot has changed since my last update. I'm single now and have moved to a new city. My ex, who I'll call Mia, and I separated about 4 months after my last post. We celebrated 2 years together in March and talked about our future, but I was a mess. Therapy started well, but I quickly realized just how many unresolved issues I had bottled up from losing my mum. I was struggling emotionally, crying at random, worrying for some effed up thoughts that I might somehow turn into my dad, and spiraling with fears I couldn't control. Mia had dreams of marriage and kids, and I knew I wasn't in the right place to give her the future she deserved. It would have been very selfish of me to ask her to stay until I got better. We had a long, honest talk, lots of tears, and ultimately decided to part ways. It wasn't easy, but it was the best decision for both of us. Mia and I still cared for each other deeply, and she, along with my friends, checked on me every day after the breakup. I wasn't left to face things alone, and for that, I'm so grateful. In July, I was offered the chance to move to the head office of my company in another city. After discussing it with my therapist, I decided it would be a good opportunity to change my surroundings and start fresh. In September, I made the move. My best friend used 25 days of his 30-day holiday to help me pack, move, and settle in. I can't overstate how much that meant to me. I have incredible friends. Since then, I've been taking things one day at a time. The new office has been amazing. Everyone was so welcoming, which was a big relief since I'd been anxious about starting over somewhere new. I now attend online therapy sessions twice a week and grief counseling in person here. It's been helping a lot. I'm in a much better headspace than I was before, though I still don't feel ready to date again. For now, I'm focusing on my career and on continuing to heal. Once again, thank you to everyone who has supported me, whether through messages or just by caring enough to check in. It means the world. Ciao. What a great update for OP. Glad to hear he's doing well. It really is a shame about his family though, especially the aunt. I mean, she knew what the father did and still decided to break his trust anyway. That's just sad. Anyway guys, we're going to leave that story there. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Otherwise, we're moving on. Okay, this next one was actually posted on Advice. It was written by user Nova Alifano and it's titled, Boyfriend got mad after I refused his property tattoo idea. Okay, so this is a throwaway account. I'm 23 female, dating my boyfriend, 26, together almost for 2 years. Recently, during sex, he brought up this wild idea about him tattooing his name's property on me down there so I'd be officially his. It caught me off guard, but since we were in the middle of roleplay, I just went along with it and said yes to that since it was just bedroom talk. Fast forward a few days, and he casually brought it up again, asking if I'd be okay with him tattooing that phrase on me down there. I thought he was still joking, so I played along sarcastically, telling him I'd love to get it tattooed, thinking there's no way he was serious. Now, 5 days after this incident, he actually ordered an $800 tattoo pen. I was so thrown off and honestly felt super weird about it. I told him that I thought he wasn't serious at all. He got really disappointed and said he was serious because he's already tattooed my name on his collarbone. Since he knows I don't want a visible tattoo, he figured this would be a good compromise because no one else would see it but him. This seems really controlling to me, and this controlling behavior has been surfacing more frequently, like he insists on knowing exactly where I am at all times and gets upset if I don't respond to his texts right away. We ended up having this ridiculous argument yesterday. He's upset, saying he'd gladly tattoo my name or anything related to me anywhere on his body again, so he can't understand why I won't do this one thing for him. I told him I wasn't okay with this, and eventually he calmed down and agreed to drop it, but I can still sense that he's mad at me and upset that I wouldn't do something for him that he would do for me without hesitation. Honestly, I can't believe this is even a real argument. I know this is serious and I don't want to ignore the signs, but it's hard for me to look at it that way because I love him more than anyone. He genuinely loves me, always checking up on me and making sure I'm okay. He's always there for me, even in my hardest times when no one was there to help me. I'm genuinely worried about how our relationship could escalate, especially considering he has a short temper and he's started being so controlling recently. What should I do? I feel really bad and suffocated when I'm the reason he gets upset regarding something. Edit. I didn't share much about our relationship and there's a lot to consider. I know a lot of you are saying I should leave him and he's a red flag, but it's not that easy for me because he's never shown any manipulative signs before. He cares about me a lot and never made me feel like I'm a burden to him in any way. He's moved countries for me, quit his job and went through the hassle of finding a new one near where we live now. He stopped talking to his parents because they don't like me and wouldn't accept our relationship because from their point of view I have too much influence on him and that I'm distancing him from his family, when in reality I'm not. In all our disagreements, even though he's short-tempered, he's never yelled at me or shown any signs of hitting me, always respected my boundaries regarding literally anything, except a couple of times where he annoyed the crap out of me, asking my location 24/7 and who I'm hanging out with, which happened recently. He's close with my family and my friends all like him. I haven't told them about the recent stuff. It's not like he's ever tried to isolate me or anything. He came up to me today bringing up the tattoo thing. He admitted that it was a stupid kink and fantasy he had in his mind, and he got carried away with it. He said he was truly ashamed and disgusted by how he reacted to it. Feels horrible for making me uncomfortable with himself for even having such an idea. It really got to him and he started crying, saying he knows this recent controlling behavior is damaging our relationship, says he needs a second chance and hopes I don't give up on him because he genuinely needs help. He had been thinking about his behavior from the past months and it had been bothering him, but he was unable to address it to me because he fears I'd break up with him. He kept apologizing, saying he wasn't thinking straight when he ordered the pen. He made it clear that he won't ever force me or pressure me to do anything or get mad for things if I don't want to do it, and won't second guess my decision ever again. He suggested we go to couples therapy and he's ready to work on himself because he feels like he's losing control over his actions and doesn't fully understand why this is happening. I really appreciate the advice and support, and I'll definitely be keeping it in mind as I figure out what I should do. Let's read some comments. You already know you need to get out of this relationship. He's far too controlling. This isn't a sign. He is actively abusing you. You are afraid of angering him. He is continuing to punish you for not doing what he wants. You are allowing it to happen. You're 23. You have your whole life ahead of you. One day you'll be shocked and embarrassed that you actually dated someone like this. You'll be grateful you didn't waste more of your life living like this. If you do the right thing, that is. Short-tempered, controlling, feeling bad and suffocated, worrying about escalation. Trust your feelings. They're telling you that you're being suffocated, that you're in a bad situation, that you're in a situation likely to escalate in a bad way. Start making an exit plan. The fact that you can't easily get out of the relationship without risking him harming you, that is exactly why you need to get out. Opie updates 2 weeks later. I had been thinking seriously about breaking up with him because of what he did 2 weeks ago. Things started getting back to normal, and he was acting fine until 4 days ago. I was out with my friends at this cafe, and I told him I was going out, but didn't tell him the name of the cafe. I told him I'd be home by 7. I lost track of time, and my phone also died. It had been almost 8, and I see him walk in the cafe towards me. I still have no frickin' idea how he knew where I was, since I didn't tell him what cafe. Neither my friends told him anything. I asked him and he ignored, saying he was worried I wasn't picking up his calls, so he came to check up on me. I didn't argue much since we were in public, but back home I confronted him because it's so frickin' creepy and an invasion of my privacy. He never answered my question, then says to me that he can't trust me anymore because I've been distant since the tattoo situation. And every time I'm with my friends, he thinks I'm plotting for our breakup and distancing myself. Rants bullcrap like this for 15 minutes until I'm fed up and I tell him I want to break up. He looks completely shocked. He didn't say anything and went straight to the guest room and locked the door. I panicked because I thought he might do something stupid. I don't trust him regarding all of this now, but said he needs to think, so I left him alone. I didn't sleep. It was around 3:25 a.m. when I hear thud sounds outside my room, and I go to the guest room, and it's a mess. He was completely drunk and had red eyes. I don't even know, for God knows how long he'd been crying. He looked like a completely different person. And then he says to me that he loves me more than anything and can die for me and would do anything to make me happy, and doesn't understand why I can't forgive him for that one mistake he's made 2 weeks ago that he's deeply regretting about. He also said he's not trying to control me, but he can't sit silently by and watch me walk away. He will change himself for the better, but won't let me leave, ever. I didn't want to talk about all this while he was in this state, so I started to leave the room, and then he stopped me saying he'll give me space and time, however much I want, but won't let me break up with him, and will keep coming back to me until I figure this out and get back with him. I was so taken aback on how he was reacting to all of this, and WTF was he saying? I still can't get this line out of my head. It keeps repeating. I'll make you see how much I love you, even if you don't want it. I'll do anything to make you stay. I don't care if it takes months or effing years. Hearing all of this, I actually started fearing him for the first time. He was completely different, so unrecognizable, and it's also wrong on so many levels. I knew what I had to do, and I knew if I started to pack my bags that second, I don't know what he might have done. I go into our room. I didn't open the door. 5 hours later, and I find him asleep on the floor. I get out of the apartment and I'm currently staying in a friend's house. It's been 3 days. He'd been contacting non-stop to just talk to him once in person. 834 missed calls and a gazillion messages came to my friend's house to talk where I was staying, but I refused to talk. I'm a mess right now. I don't know how to freaking handle this situation. All of my things are at his apartment, and I don't want to face him, especially now. I don't feel like talking to him right now. It's also freaking creepy, and I hate myself so much that I still love and care about him after all of this, and the crap he pulled 2 weeks ago, and I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. Where did I go wrong, and why is this crap all happening to me? I did everything I could to fix all of this, but he's just changed so much in the past months. I don't know what to freaking do. I'm losing my mind. Why the F do I still love him? I literally don't know how to get past the situation. Holy moly, folks, that escalated really fast. But yeah, you could definitely see the signs of this in that first post. Just the language and the behavior, the controlling nature of it all. It just kind of screamed psychological abuse to me. But that's the last update for that one so far, and it was quite a few weeks ago now. So I'll keep an eye out for any future ones, but yeah, fingers crossed Opie's okay. Anyway guys, we're going to leave it there. Hope you enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.